What is up, guys? In today's video, I'm going to go over some tips that should hopefully help you stop losing to the Nitro Gauntlets in Chapter 5 Season 3, because this has probably been the item that I've gotten some of the most complaints about this season in terms of people not liking playing against it or having a really hard time playing against it. And just in general, whenever there's melee weapons in Fortnite, it seems like a lot of players struggle with that. So that's what we're going to talk about in this video. And then I also will just go over some tips for like using this item at the end, because I do think it's probably the most important item in the game right now. So the first like huge piece of advice I would have for playing against melee weapons in Fortnite is going to be that you do not want to get very close to people without some sort of advantage. Typically, this is going to be an HP advantage, so maybe you beamed them with a mid-range weapon like an AR or an SMG, and then you're trying to close the gap to finish that kill, or maybe you're third-partying the fight and you think they're weak, like they just got done fighting somebody else. Or in the case of this season, it could be that you're going to push and then shoot something like a boom bolt or throw boogies or EMPs down on them, and then that gives you an advantage in the fight. Like, you could be full health and your opponent could be full health, but if you boogie bomb them, you have a distinct advantage in that fight. You know, it's not just HP, or it could just be a timing thing. Like, you think you're going to get much better timing. But if you just get on somebody very dry, you're full health, they're full health, like you don't have any reason to think they're at a disadvantage, and then they pull out the gloves and start beating you with it, that is when it's going to be most problematic, I think, or when you get engaged on by somebody using the gloves, which we will talk about later on in the video. When it comes to fighting someone very close range using the gloves, I would say one of the most important things is just to move while shooting. And this is like an evergreen tip in Fortnite. When I try to make like kind of basic videos for like newer players, this is one of the things that I always stress to like kind of put some work in. If you don't feel comfortable moving while shooting, whether this is strafing, jumping, sliding, you want to be able to do all of these actions and shoot the opponent seamlessly. Not only is this going to make you a harder target to hit in like a gunfight, but when it comes down to a melee weapon, if you make them miss, like, your life is significantly better typically, because getting hit by these melee weapons, I feel like the biggest problem is once you start getting hit by it, you get kind of like stun locked sometimes. But the same is also true for them. Like, if they miss, I feel like they often can kind of get stun locked, and that's an easy kill for you. So if you're someone who, you know, you kind of play like a statue in a fight, like you just kind of stand there and don't move at all, that's going to be a big problem in these situations. So I would highly advise being comfortable moving and shooting at the same time and tracking your opponent in close range. And then also another kind of basic tip when it comes to close range fighting in Fortnite is that you don't want to be incredibly reliant on aiming in with your shotgun. This is something I see with a lot of newer players that aren't very comfortable with their hipfire sensitivity, is they aim down sights in every shotgun fight. And if you have to aim in, like, there's times where aiming in can be good, but if that's the only way you can hit a shot with a shotgun, then that's not going to go well for you in a very chaotic situation where they're like pummeling you with the fist. You know, like the person is moving around all janky, your character is getting thrown around, so it's going to be harder to adjust when you are aimed in. But also your movement is going to be like seriously impaired and limited when you're aimed in. So get comfortable hip firing, get comfortable moving and shooting at the same time. This will help you all the times in Fortnite, but especially against these people using the fists in close range. Another thing that can really help is that the dashes that you can get from the green water around the map, if you have somebody that kind of goes in on you with the fist, you just dash backwards, dash to the side. Now they're missing their attacks and you have some shots to hit on them. They might be able to get on you again, but if you have more dashes, you can just dash again. Or hopefully the fact that you got away the first time creates a situation where the fight is a little more winnable. Also, if it is kind of obvious to you that someone is going for this, there's going to be times where you have to just fight it, but there also might be times where just like kind of not shooting your gun and sprint jumping to the side or behind them or slide kicking them can work out really well if you think they are going for this, or just gloving away yourself or running away yourself. You know, like, they're not always pummeling you instantly, you know, like you can kind of see it coming sometimes is what I'm trying to say. The nitro effect is also very good for this. Obviously it would be unlikely that you pop Nitro and you're like, okay, now if someone gets on me, I have this, or like you pop it specifically for that purpose. But if you have the Nitro medallion, or you get Nitro around the map from like the rings or like the tank, the canisters or the splash, like if you already have Nitro going for some reason, then just sprinting into them while they're doing it will knock them away. And if they're relying on a melee weapon and you're using a ranged weapon, if you knock them away, that's significantly worse off for them, right? Being around cars can also help for this. The fist players can hit you while you're in the car, but if you're able to like shotgun shoot a shot or two and then get in the car to like kind of dodge their attacks, they can hit you, but it's like more inconvenient for them to do so. And then the one other final thing I want to say about that is to use a hard hitting shotgun in close range. I've seen a lot of comments from players that say they just don't even carry a shotgun at all. Like whenever I make loadout videos, I have people tell me that they just don't use a shotgun at all and they use SMGs and it works for them. And like maybe, but in a situation where somebody's meleeing you to death with the fist, which will happen a decent amount this season, having a hard hitting shotgun like the Gatekeeper shotgun, I think makes those fights a much higher % win for you. Even the combat shotgun, whenever I've used it, that is what has annoyed me most about the combat, is whenever I've had to fight anybody with gloves, just chipping them down like 70-ish damage per shot, it doesn't kill as fast as a Gatekeeper shotgun. So I would highly recommend using a hard-hitting shotgun just all the time, but especially for these fights, I feel like it's very beneficial. One of the biggest problems that I think a lot of players have when dealing with the fists is the ground pound attack. So like somebody goes up in the air and then ground pounds on you, and then they just start spamming the fists, right? Another option that players have when they go up is that they can throw a boogie bomb down on you, or EMPs when those come into the game, or they can shoot a boom bolt down on you. There's a lot of just like advantage to being the player in the sky in that situation. You have several good items or just the ground pound attack of the fist. And I think the best way to counter all of this is just to be in the habit of when a player goes up versus you with the gloves, you go up yourself. So the way the glove works is you jump and hit your right trigger activation. I don't know the mouse clicks off to my head. I guess it would be like right click. I don't know. Either way, you jump and hit your shoot button, and then you'll go in the direction you're looking. You can look straight up and go pretty high. Or you could just tap your aim down sight button and you'll do an uppercut. So if you are someone who's struggling with the gloves and you don't like that you have to like jump and then do the other button, and it just feels like that's too much for you, whenever someone is going high on you with the gloves, just tap your uppercut, and then from there you can start doing the other activation in a single button click. But just as like far as like a panic button goes, especially if you are someone who kind of struggles with your inventory a bit, which I feel like a lot of the players that are struggling against the gloves kind of fall into that habit, that camp. Whenever they go up, you go up, and it kind of negates the advantage they have. They can't ground pound on you anymore. Now you can be the one doing a ground pound and kind of reverse it on them, or you can shoot your boom bolt down at them, or you can throw boogie bombs down at them. And just this as an initiation tactic in game is incredibly powerful, even if you aren't playing against somebody with gloves. Just the uppercut into boogie bomb, or the uppercut into boom bolt, or the uppercut into ground pound, all of these things are incredibly easy to activate, I feel like, once you get the hang of it, and incredibly powerful. And the main counter to it is just somebody using the gloves themselves, and a lot of players do kind of like panic and freeze up in those moments and not really just have the immediate habit of, this player's in the sky, I need to neutralize that advantage they have by getting there myself. And then even if you don't want to start throwing stuff down on them or ground pound on them, they might go up, try to throw something down on you, whatever they're going to do, right? Let's say they go up and then you uppercut up. Then you can just kind of use the shoot button activation to kind of maybe go somewhere else and reset the fight and not have an incredibly close range fight if you're not comfortable playing against the gloves. Like, let's say you know someone's trying to go for the ground pound on you and you don't have any damage on them yet. Maybe you go, they go up, you travel away, and then you get like some AR tags on them. And then if they chase you again and try to keep making that close range fight, now you're at an HP advantage, and it's going to go much better for you, I think, in the long run. So just that two pieces of advice that I think will get rid of a lot of deaths versus the gloves. Don't jump on people without some sort of advantage, especially if you aren't comfortable fighting close range and you find yourself losing to this a lot. There will be times where you do have to 50-50 people like that. But if you're struggling, don't go like seeking those situations out, you know? So avoid getting on people with no advantage. And then also when they go up, you go up. And that just, I think genuinely those 2 pieces of advice will reduce your deaths to the glove a lot. The next things, I think I'm just going to talk about some tips for the gloves. The first is going to be that if you're traveling around the map with it, you have 4 activations, and then each activation has an individual, like they go on cooldown for 11 seconds. So if you're traveling around the map with it, don't use all of your dashes with it if you aren't in danger. Like if you're just trying to get from point A to point B, maybe use a dash or 2 and then sprint a little bit. And then when you run out of sprint, then you can use more dashes. But you don't want to use all your dashes to 0 if you aren't in danger. That way you have some for when danger does happen. You know, you don't want to be caught off guard with no activations on your glove is basically what I'm saying, because the main counter to a lot of the initiation with the gloves is just to have gloves yourself. It's a very important item this season. If you're having a hard time getting gloves, there's gold POIs every game. They kind of vary game to game, but it'll be marked gold on the map. And these are these POIs have these loot drones, and these loot drones have potential to drop the gloves. So if you're having a hard time getting gloves, especially in squads, like getting 4 sets of gloves, it's rough. You can land at one of these gold zones, or even if you don't want to land at the gold zone, maybe land somewhere and then you find out like, oh, we need another set of gloves, then maybe rotate to one of the gold zones. That way you can get it that way. I feel like these are the most consistent time I've had getting them is landing at the gold areas or rotating to the gold areas. And like we talked about earlier, the uppercut or dash upwards, the dash upwards does go higher than the uppercut, but I like the uppercut for looking for initiation just because like it's a single button activation. And like the forward momentum you get with it, I feel like is pretty nice. And if you are trying to throw something or shoot something down on somebody, it's not like you need to be incredibly high in the sky. Especially in the case of boogies, it's almost like not ideal to be incredibly high because then you have to like predict more in terms of like where you need to throw it because of travel. But either way, that uppercut or dash forward into boom bolt, into boogie, into EMP is incredibly worth and just incredibly good. Or if you're pushing somebody, like let's say you get AR tags on somebody, you hit them like 70, uppercut into ground pound, into shotgun is just like incredibly good. So I think for this season, getting the hang of the uppercut into whatever you're going to combo it with is very, very, very good, especially when playing against any cars. You have boogies, EMPs when they come, just throw that down, and then the car user is going to have a really hard time playing the game. But that is going to be it for this video. As always, if you guys found this helpful, informative, interesting, remember to give it a like, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and comment down below if you are someone that's been struggling versus the gloves, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that watch this video and they're like, that's super basic. I already knew that. I wasn't losing to gloves, but just from reading comments, I know that there's a lot of people that have been struggling to play against the melee of the gloves. So I hope this video helped you, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.